Hello everyone, it's Jennifer and thank you for joining me today. We are going to make these 4 bracelets today using beads and components from the Best Bead Box Treasure Edition from Potomac Beads for the month of April. We're going to make this gorgeous peridot and seed bead bracelet using a magnetic clasp from my stash. We're also going to make a multi-strand bracelet, and I'm going to use some chain from my stash and also some head pins and lobster clasp and jump rings. Then we're going to make this gorgeous, beautiful crystal and pearl bracelet using some jump rings and lobster clasp from my own stash, and we're going to use some eye pins that we had from a prior box, and then a fun stretch bracelet. I am just going to be using some of the elastic cord that they included in this month's box and wire wrap some of those beautiful dark sapphire crystals. So if you want to see how we're going to make these, stay tuned. What I'm going to be using today is beads from the check faceted rounds, and this is 4 millimeters in the peridot. And I had originally thought that I was going to be making a stretch bracelet using some of the stretch cord that they included in the box, but I'm actually going to be using this for another project, which I have a ton. They sent 5 meters, and with stretch cord, you actually stretch it out a little bit too to prime it before making your bracelet. So you actually get quite a good supply of this elastic cord. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to use, again, these peridot beads. We're going to use some of these. Here it is. The bead caps. These are 4 millimeter filigree premium 99.9% silver plated. You get 100 of them, and I just put out a pile of them. I'm also going to be using some of these Miyuki Delicas. This is an opaque pear, and I just love those colors together. They just look really pretty with the silver. And I had initially made also a pair of earrings using the buttons. You get a couple of 99.9% silver plated buttons, and I actually think I'm going to use that for something else. From my stash, I did grab a magnetic clasp. I have a silver magnetic clasp. I did grab a couple of jump rings because I don't like to string the magnetic clasps or any clasps directly onto my component or my bracelet, because if that lobster clasp or the magnetic clasp, if something breaks, then you have to take apart the entire bracelet, and I don't want to have to do that. So I have, again, those beads, the bead caps, the delicas. I also have a couple of wire guards from my stash and a couple of 2x2 crimp tubes, and again, those jump rings. So I'm going to bring in this beading cord, and this is from Potomac Beads as well, and this was from, I think, either the January or February box, and I still have some left. I don't have it on the spool any longer because I completely unraveled it, and then now I use the spool holder to hold extra beads and extra little whatnots that I don't put away, that I just want to keep out. And so we're going to go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go straight onto the beading cord. And what I'm going to do is I want this pattern. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do 3 of the delicas. Then I'm going to go ahead and start threading on my bead caps, or just one bead cap. And make sure that you get into the center of the bead cap, because there's other little holes there that you might accidentally go through. And then we're going to thread on one of the peridots, and then we're going to go ahead and put on another bead cap. Be sure to go through the middle, just give it an extra look. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put one, then I'm going to go ahead, or one seed bead, I'm going to do one bead cap, and then one peridot, I first thought I would probably maybe put 2 in between, but maybe I will do 2 in between. Let's see what 2 in between looks like. Let's try 2 delicas in between. And go ahead and put that through the middle, and I wasn't getting that through the middle. Let's see. There we go. And let's see what 2 looks like. 2 actually looks pretty. I think I'm going to go ahead and put 2 in between, because then if you want to put some little dangles in between, you can. So which we can do that. We can maybe put a dangle in between. Oh, and sometimes you pick up 2. So then we're going to put another bead cap, and then we're going to do 2 more. Okay, then we're going to pick up a bead cap, and we're just going to continue until we get to our desired length. And this is for me because this is my birthstone. So this one is for me. And I said I was making something else. I had made a pair of earrings, and I thought, I'm not gonna wear the earrings. I'll probably wear a bracelet before I wear earrings. And so I thought this would be absolutely perfect. And it's a good thing this isn't live because I could cut that out. But let's go ahead, and I'm just gonna continue on. I'm gonna do 2 delicas. They're just so pretty. 2 delicas, and then a bead cap, and then another round. They are so gorgeous, these peridot are. So pretty. Then we're going to go ahead and do another bead cap. And again, just make sure you get through the center of your bead cap and not through a side. See how that one went through the side? Just make sure that you've got your bead cap going through the center, just like so. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and continue threading here until I get to my length, and then I will come back. We will finish this off, and then I think we're going to have time for another project. And yeah, we'll go ahead and put another project together too. So let me finish this up, and I will come right back. Okay, so I think I'm down to the end, and I did have 3 on this end, and I think I'm just going to go ahead and keep the 2. But also too, before I start closing everything off, I just want to take a peek and give it a one more look over, make sure I have 2 beads in between each peridot, and then I have a cap for each peridot, and just give it a look over. And I love those colors together. That is just so gorgeous. We are jumping right to the finished piece, only because the section where I was attaching my wire guard and my crimp tubes and my magnetic clasp, I don't know what happened to that footage. So I don't have the footage of doing that, but we are going to be covering the wire guard with the crimp tubes several times during this video tutorial, but here it is all finished up. Now on to the next one. We are back, and I brought in the stretch cord. I brought in these gorgeous table cut. They have that Picasso finish on the outside, as well as the dark sapphire 3mm crystal bicones. These are amazing. They are so, so pretty. And the first thing I want to do before I start breaking into my stretch cord is I do want to give it a little bit of a stretch just to prime it. And what I want to do is I want to start off at a hole where I know I am going to be able to, I guess, kind of hide the knot. I'm not going to be able to hide the knot in there, so I need to have this on an end. Then I'm going to end up with with one of these guys, and I'll be knotting it, but I'm going to tuck it back into this guy. So let's go ahead, and I think these go through. They should go through. Okay, so we got one through. And I am just going to go all the way around. I'm not going to subject you to watching me go all the way around, but look how pretty that is. Isn't that beautiful? Like I said, Allie did a multi-strand necklace and had this up at the top, and it just looks so pretty. So I cannot take credit for marrying these beads together. This was all Allie from Potomac Beads, and I will give credit where credit is due. And I'm going to continue going around the rest of this, and I think I'm going to use all of them because this is going to be my bracelet, and I have a larger wrist. And so I want to be able to wear that on there. All right, so I'm going to continue going around. Isn't that so pretty? And I will be right back. So now we're to the end, and I ended up taking off 2 of the beads because of the length. It was long, even for my size. And then what I'm going to do though here at the end is I am actually going to add an extra blue bead so that I can add a dangle in between. Okay, so let's see what kind of dangle we can, oh, you know what we can do is we can use some of these guys for a dangle. So let's use like 3 and then 2. Let me grab a head pin. Maybe we'll do 3 little 2 bead dangles. Let's go ahead and see if this will go on. This is a little bent, but that's okay. Oh, yeah, that's perfect. So let's go ahead and do a couple of double dangles. We'll go ahead and do some wrapped loops. And so I just gave it that 90-degree angle bend. I'm going to come in, there's my mark that I like to use. Form that wire over the barrel, push it to the back, and then just get that all nice and centered, just like so. Then we're going to go ahead and come in. I'm going to lock it in place, and then I'm going to bring in my bent chain nose pliers and finish that off. And you can very easily just do, if you just want to do simple loops, but I love a wrapped loop. And then I'm just kind of being a little careful here because I know that those are glass beads and I don't want to break them. So let's go ahead and come in with those bent chain nose pliers in again, and I want to tuck in that little tiny tail that's sticking out. I'm just coming in with the very tip, and now we have ourselves a wrapped loop. Let's go ahead and we're going to make another one with just 2, and then we'll do one with, no, we'll just go ahead and do these 2 because I don't want it to take away from the rest of the bracelet. Let's go ahead and do a 3. Go ahead with chain nose pliers, come in and give it that bend. The reason why I put the chain nose pliers here is so that I have a little bit of neck to make those wraps. Now my palm is facing me, and I'm just going to take that wire and form it over the top barrel. Now I'm just going to hold on to this and just rotate so that I can, this needs to go out that way. So let's go ahead and get it going that way, and let's go ahead, and now we have our loop. Putting the chain nose pliers over the loop, not where the wires cross. And then I just like to lock it in place real quick there before I start my wraps. I'm just going around. I let go at every half turn. For one thing, these are delicate beads. They're glass beads, and I don't want to just rush and start wrapping. And then also too, I like to have a nice, good, tight wrap. Okay, let's go ahead and come in with the bent, I come in with the bent chain nose pliers so that I'm at a good angle and I can see. And then I'm just going to come in and just sit on top of that wire and just get that wire tucked in. Okay, so now we have another loop. Then what I want to do is I want to bring back in my little trusty jump rings, but I'm going to bring in some smaller ones. I'm going to use some smaller ones there. And I'm first going to open this one up like so and add this there. And I like that. Then what I'm going to do is close that off oh so carefully. Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and grab this one at the split. I'm going to split it open. I'm going to grab, yeah, let's grab this little guy. And then we'll put this guy on there like so. And then if I want to add a third one, I can, but I kind of like this. And again, I don't know where I get these jump rings that are not, there we go. All right, so now we have our little dangle. So I don't want the dangle to go directly onto the wire. So I made this a little bit, use the jump ring, and then let's go ahead and add another bead here so that the jump ring goes over the beads. Or I guess a little right in between. Now they go over because they're little bicones. All right, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and cut this off so that we can go ahead and get it tied off. Just want to do an overhand knot, just like so. And it gets a little, you have to be a little careful when you've got these little smaller beads that are at the ends here, like so. Okay, so go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and do a surgeon's knot. And I just want to hold that tight until I get to the very bottom and just give it a little bit of a pull. And there we go. We'll be able to get this. So we have that. We'll be able to get this wrapped around, close off the circulation. Get a little bit of this on there. Give it a little bit of a blow on it a little bit, trim it off. Not right at the knot, but give it a little bit of a trim. And then see if you can tuck that in to that bead. So there we go. We have a beautiful little stretch bracelet in the alley inspired colors with using those dark sapphires and those table cut check glass that have the gorgeous Picasso finish on the side. We have a few beads of each left over. We might be able to use this for a pair of earrings or something later. So be sure to get your cap back on your GS Hypo Cement, which I just opened this up. I've just finished off the original GS Hypo Cement that I had that I got 3 years ago. So 3 years it lasted. And I have another couple projects on the beading mat using some of those gorgeous peridot, the pearls, some of the bicone crystals, and those beautiful bead caps. So I've already assembled one of the strands. This is actually going to be like quadruple strand. So I pulled some chain that I had in my stash and it's a beautiful silver color. And then what I did was I took some of the beading cord or beading thread from my prior box and went ahead and strung these up, used some wire guards and some 2x2 crimp tubes. And we have those here on the mat as well. We're also going to make a few dangles. I did have one pearl left, and so I'm going to go ahead and make a dangle with that, and then a bicone and one of those beautiful peridot. And again, this is still that same from that same spool. And I have enough probably for, I probably have still another meter left. But we're going to go ahead and use it for this bracelet as well. And what I did, the pattern, so the pattern was peridot, because I had more peridots than I did pearls, because I'm using it in another project. So I did a peridot, I did a pearl, bead cap, bicone, bead cap, pearl, and then just repeated it all the way down. So we're going to go ahead and do that. I will do a couple, and then I will go off camera because of course I'm using these gorgeous bead caps that you have to make sure you get through the center. And I had pretty good luck this last time. And so I'm going to go ahead and continue doing that with the bicone. Such a gorgeous box. If you are not a subscriber, I just really do encourage you to take a look at the different levels. There's also a kit box. So if you're not a designer and you want something to do each month, make up 2 to 3 premium kits, and you want the design already set out for you, the kit edition would be an amazing option for you. And I just see I did that wrong. Let's start over. Let's do peridot. Then we're going to do the pearl. That's what it was. I jumped ahead of myself. Then we're going to go ahead and do the bead cap. And what I did was I just put my bead cap. So this one is the inside up, and then I just poked my wire through it so that I knew that I was getting that down the middle hole. Because filigree, with the filigree bead caps, there's several different holes there that you can accidentally get through. All right, so I am going to go, this is the correct peridot, pearl, cap, bicone, cap, pearl. And I am just going to continue until I get to the end, and then I will come back and we will finish off this bracelet, and then we'll finish off the other bracelet, and then we will be done. We are now at the end. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and finish this off. I've done my whole pattern. I'm going to go ahead and look and just give it a quick look over to make sure that I have cap, bicone, cap, and just to make sure that I have my pattern right. Have you ever had your whole entire bracelet, necklace, any sort of piece that you're making, and you get to the end and you're like, oh no, I missed a bead or I missed a cap? And that is so frustrating. So you can probably tell that I've done that. I'm going to thread on my 2x2 crimp tube, and then I'm going to add my wire guard. And again, I do love the wire guards because it does give another level of protection, especially if you're making these items to sell. It just helps out with protection, and that piece will last so much longer. So then I also go through one bead. And the reason why I go through one bead is because I like how the tube sits on the first bead when it's not one-sided. So let's go ahead and come in with our crimper, and I just want to close off that that wire guard. And I close it off. For one thing, look how much I've gained. I've gained a little bit of room here. So if I can have more room on the bracelet, I would rather have more room on the bracelet than having the wire guard sticking out. Plus, it tapers a little bit better to that crimp tube. So now what I want to do is I want to make sure that I have some room, and I do have some room, and I want to bring that down. I want to make sure that the beading wire is, or beading cord is in the groove of that that wire guard. And again, just want to make sure I can move around and make sure that that's nice and snug. I am actually pulling this through that strand and through that bead, and it does give me a little bit more wiggle room as far as I'm not pulling it through the crimp tube up against the bead and then trying to get a nice good clean crimp that way. And I'm going to go ahead and give it a little squish for that back notch, make a little bit of a taco, and it separates the wires. Then I come in with a top notch and then give it another squeeze, and that's what finishes it off. Then I come in and I tug test it, and then with my flush cutters, I'm going to come in and give that a nice trim, and just be very careful not to trim that second strand. And sometimes you'll get a little bit sticking out, and you just put it into place. It'll go into the next bead, and this is how it's going to be worn anyways. So never had a problem with that. Okay, so now I have my 2 strands, and I hope they're the same length, and they are. And again, this is when working from the spool. This is my scrap from the second side where I had to cut off, and you want to leave a little bit of room anyways, because for you to hold on to while you're making your crimp. On the other side, I already tossed it. I had maybe about that much. So not that much of some scraps. All right, so now we have our chain, and I'm going to put the chain like in the middle. So we're going to do that. What we're going to do is we are going to go ahead and attach all of this and attach all of this. Then I have this twisted jump ring for the lobster clasp to connect to. I couldn't get it out. And the reason why I chose this larger loop too is to add some length. I need to add some length because this is for me. This is my birthstone. The peridot is my birthstone. This is for me. And I do have a large wrist. I do like to wear my bracelets a little on the looser side. And the reason why is because I do have chains that are not as loose. But if I'm in a stack, I don't want them to all be the same length and then they're like this on top of each other. I want them to be spread out a little bit. So that's what I'm doing here. Then we're going to make some dangles. So let's go ahead and make our dangles first. Then we'll start connecting. So I just have some flat head pins, and like I said, I was taking a bicone. I have one here that has the pearl, a cap, and a peridot, and then one with the peridot. And what we're going to do here is we're going to do a wire wrap loops, and I like wire wrap loops. For one thing, I love the way they look. They just look very slick. And another, it does provide a little bit of length because you're going to have a neck. And with the simple loop as well, with the simple loop, it's not wrapped. So you have that risk of it getting snagged on something and it popping off. With these, it's not going to, because you're securing and you're wrapping your loop. I don't know if that makes sense, but we're going to do it 3 times here. So we're going to have our 90-degree angle bend. I'm going to go ahead and bring in my round nose pliers. My palm is facing me, and I have my pliers in and my wires in between, and my wires all the way up against there. So I'm right in at that angle. I'm going to take that wire and just form it over the top barrel. Then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just hold on to that just to keep it in place so that it's not moving around on my, on the round nose pliers, because then you can have a distorted, you're not gonna have a good circle. Your loop isn't going to be symmetric. It's going to be kind of organic. And this is what it looks like. So now we have it like this here, where this tail though needs to be pointing out that way. So just push it to the back just like that. And when you look at it, you go, oh, that's not centered. No, it's not. So then just roll your wrist. And just be careful when you're applying that pressure. So all I did was have my hand up against, my finger up against it, and then I was just rolling my wrist. But just be careful, because some delicate crystal beads, you can snap them even on this. So now I have my loop here. So now what I want to do is I'm going to put the tip of my chain nose pliers over the loop, not where the wires meet, only over the loop. Okay. Then I want to just lock it in place, and I just give it a little bit of a bend just to lock it in place and start the wrap. But then I'm going to come in with my bent chain nose pliers, and then I'm going to start wrapping. And I always go 3 times around. And you don't want to force it. So if you're 3 times around and you have a little bit of, you can see a little bit of gap, I wouldn't force it on the crystal beads, just because, for one thing, when you cut your wire just like that, sometimes you can actually break your crystal. And it's not that the crystal is bad quality. No, it's that it's crystal. Come in, and I want to tuck in that little bit of tail. And again, I do have a crystal bead here, so that's why I like it not being so tight. And it is tight. It's not going to move. This one's not moving around. It's just wiggling, but it's not moving all the way around. And then here we go. We have our first little dangle. Okay, so we're going to do that again. We are going to go, I have a bunch of little from the pearls. So now I'm going to go ahead and come in here with my bent chain nose plier, or with my chain nose pliers, and these head pins are fairly thick, so they're not 22 gauge. They're probably maybe 20 or 21 gauge, and so I want to come in about, not at the tippy tip of my chain nose pliers, but just a scotch in. And what this does is, this is what provides you with your neck. Now I'm going to go ahead and come in with my round nose pliers, form over that top barrel, hold on to that, rotate my wrist, push to the back, and then rotate to get that centered. I'm going to come in with my chain nose pliers, lock it in place, then bring in the bent chain nose pliers and start wrapping. Okay, so there we go. And then we're going to come in and we're going to give it a little bit of a trim. And again, we want to tuck in that little tiny tail. And I'm just going to come in at the tip of my chain nose pliers and just tuck it in. There's number 2, and here we go with number 3. This one here is the bicone. Bicones are absolutely beautiful. Okay, so now what we're going to do is be at kind of the tippy tip, but not. I'm in just a scotch. For one thing, I don't want my wraps to go so tightly up against that crystal. So I'm going to come in, give that a little form over the top barrel. I did kind of move around a little bit, so it's going to probably be a little wonky. That's okay. If it's wonky, it's wonky. If someone notices that your loops are not completely round, they are standing too close to you, because they'd have to really get their eyeballs in there. Okay, so let's go ahead and give that a little bit of a trim. And then you can hold the loop with your fingers, but I just feel like I have just, when you're working with something so small, for me, my fat fingers just don't, I feel like I have better control over it with having the bent chain nose pliers. Okay, There we go. Let's toss the scraps. Let's bring everything in. So we are going to have that. Then we're going to bring those in just like so. So let's go ahead and attach these to some jump rings. And the reason why I'm doing this to jump rings and not directly onto the large jump ring is just to give it a little bit of length as far as letting them dangle so freely. And these are just little 5mm jump rings. These are from my stash. So again, very minimal from your stash. And okay, let's get this last one. Okay. Make sure that they're nice and closed up. All right, so now what I want to do is I want to open up my jump ring. These are pretty thick. And I want to add my pearls and peridot. I want to add my chain. I want to add my chain. And I want to add my pearls and peridot. Okay, just like so. Then what I'm going to do is I want to add my dangle. Ooh, yeah, let's go ahead and do it. Yeah, let's just go ahead and do it like that. And then you can also too, if you want to add more length, you can actually put your jump ring onto that jump ring and not have it connect directly to the large jump ring here. But there we go. Then I want the dangles on the side where my clasp is so that when I am going to the other side, they're not going to get in the way. Okay, let's go ahead and close that. And you can hear it lock into place. Then what we're going to do is we're going to come over here and we want to keep it even so it doesn't get all twisted. And so we have this one here and that one. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to open up this guy and we're going to add our pearl peridot. We're going to add our chain. We're going to add our chain. We're going to add our pearl peridot. And then we need to add our twisted jump ring. And again, I did all of these large jump rings. Up, see, it locks in place. Just to give it some length. And there we go. We have a pretty multi-strand bracelet with the pearls and the peridot with those crystals, and then we have some dangles. I just absolutely love it. So there is, I can't even keep count of how many projects I already have with this box. This might be project number 1, 2, 3, maybe 7, maybe project number 7. So we're going to go ahead and put that off to the side with the other bracelets that we've made. And then we're going to bring in our last project. Now, again, I do want to share, I still have this colorful mix left. I still have this gorgeous stone pendant to use with that gorgeous travertine finish. I still have some of those 6mm beads there. I still have some bead caps. I still have some of those halo beads, some seed beads. I still have a few peridot. I still have some, oh, that's from another box. I still have a couple of these table cut. I still have sapphire. I still have those gorgeous cones, and I still have the buttons, and I still have a few crystal bicones. So I still have quite a bit left. And as you know, what I'm doing is I'm kind of on purpose just setting aside some things so that I know that I can bring everything back together. After 6 months, I'm going to pull in my leftovers from the boxes and then going to make some projects using all of those. So here we go here. I did a bracelet like this quite a while ago. Actually, it might have been a necklace where I did some simple loops and then a jump ring and then had a dangle hanging from the jump ring in between. And I really loved it. And I just absolutely love these pearls and I love these crystals. And I just thought that would be so gorgeous. Again, beautiful Mother's Day gift. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful Mother's Day gift. So what I did was I brought in those head pins, or the eye pins from that prior box. I have a couple of head pins from my stash. So we're going to go ahead and make up a couple more wrapped loops. And I'll do these fairly quickly since we just went over these with the other bracelets. And so we're going to go ahead and do that. And while I'm doing this, I'm just going to go ahead and share that I was looking through my comments on one of my, I think it was the unboxing of this box. And my friend, you hear me talk about Vicky, my friend Vicky, that we have, we're in the same day job industry, working in school business. And she's said, oh boy, I want to subscribe. So I am so happy that even my friends that I work with are jumping on to the Potomac Bead bandwagon. And I couldn't be more happy because then when we go to our meetings and go to our conferences, this last conference that we went to, we, after we were done with dinner, we went up to my room and we started bead swapping, and I showed her how to use a magical crimper, and we worked on wire wrapping, and we just had so much fun. And she's going to be retiring. I don't know how long. I have many years to go before I retire. I have, well, I say many years. I have like 12 years to go. And I know she has maybe a few years to go, but she also likes to do jewelry making with her granddaughter. So that's always fun. So now she's going to have quite the stash. And again, like I said, with this box, this could be a stash builder after you're done with your projects. Because as you can see, I have lots of projects that I created just from one box. And so, and I'm putting intentionally stuff off to the side. Now you say you have 2 pearls, but 1 eye pin. Well, here's why. I don't like waste. And so what I do is I go ahead and we're going to go ahead and make our simple loop. You're not going to hear me demonstrate simple loops too often because I'm not a simple loop person. And so my way is probably not a good way. But I'm going to go ahead and come in, and I know that my loop, I want it to be a little bit smaller than my typical loop. So I'm just going to come in about there. Now what I'm going to do is this is going to make my eye pin for that last one. Nice, huh? Because when I looked at my bag of eye pins, I thought, oh man, I'm not going to have enough to do this project. And then I started and I thought, oh, wait, I am, because I can just make my eye pin off of the scrap. So let's go ahead and come in here and roll, 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 roll. And then now, see, we have this, and I need it to look like that. Okay? And again, probably not doing it the way it's supposed to be done, but this is how I do it. All right, so let's go like that. Then I'm going to go ahead and come in with my chain nose pliers and give it that bend, just like so. And I'm going to come in this way. And again, that loop is a lot larger than the other one, but that's okay. Again, if people can tell that your loops are off or larger, then they're standing a little too close to you. All right, so now let's go ahead and get those closed off. Not the prettiest in the world, but I don't claim to be a simple loop person here. But let's go, I'm gonna open it up just a little bit because I want it to be a little more there. All right, so now we have that. Minimal scraps, right? From that eye pin, I got 2 uses out of it and I only have that much left over. Not too bad. So now what I do is I'm going to bring in my trusty little 5mm jump rings that these I like. I found the bag of the ones that I don't like, and those are gone. All right, so now I want to also make sure that my dangles are going to be on the same side. So I want to make sure that I am putting my, I'm going to put on my, add it to my strand here, just like so. But my dangle is hanging on this right side. So I'm going to go ahead and come in right like so. I'm going to add my dangle. Then I'm going to add my next little component here. And then I'm going to close it off. Just like so. All right. Kind of keep it in place. It's the only way that I know how to keep it in place is just by laying it down with every single link being added. I'm gonna go ahead and add that there. My dangle needs to go here and here. And we're gonna go ahead and get that put into place. There we are. All right, so now we have our bracelet all put together, and it's so pretty. I love those crystals with the pearls, and the dangle, it just adds so much substance to it. Now I have a lobster clasp, and I also have a closed jump ring. I do like using, I prefer closed jump rings over open jump rings on bracelets. I do. There are times where I can't get away from it, or I don't have that closed jump ring within arm's reach or hand's reach. And so this one here, I know that I'm going to be wearing this quite often, and I want that security of having the closed jump ring. So I have a closed jump ring, but what I'm going to do is I am going to attach both the lobster clasp and the closed jump ring, attach it to the bracelet using an additional jump ring. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and open that up, and I want to be sure that I'm attaching it to the pearl. And let's go ahead and attach the lobster clasp. Now, with the lobster clasp, if it malfunctions, that's okay, because all you have to do is just open up that jump ring. If you open up the jump ring a second time, I would probably get a fresh jump ring. I don't like to open jump rings more than once if I don't have to. And especially if someone's been wearing it and something malfunctions, I will always put on fresh jump rings. It's very minimal cost, but such great reward. Okay, so then let's get this closed off. It locked into place. And here is our next bracelet. Isn't that so pretty? So here we have our 4 bracelets. Amazing. They're all different. We have, we're using the peridot in 2 of the bracelets in different ways. We have magnetic clasp, lobster clasp, we have dangles on our clasp, we even have a stretch bracelet. This is probably the last of the projects that you'll still see from this box from me, because I do want to, like I said, come later and show you how you take your leftovers and combine boxes to turn into some amazing pieces. And go ahead and check out my last video that I had where I made some earrings, and check out the unboxing and see what you think. Like I said, Vicki said, I'm ready to subscribe, and I couldn't be more happy. Be sure to leave a comment. I love to see what everybody has to say, and subscribe. And until next time, have a good one.